Alright, good morning everyone. We're going to continue our lesson in our Science 9 second quarter about chemical bonding. In our previous lesson or the video lesson that you have watched, you have understood there the main difference between ionic and covalent bond. This time, this will be your learning objective or your learning aim to read. I will be able to recognize the different types of compounds, ionic or covalent, based on their properties such as the melting point, hardness, polarity, electrical, and thermal conductivity. To start with, we'll have a short review about the following words that are very important with our lesson. First, when we say elements, these are made up of just one type of atom. When we say molecules, these are the joined to other atoms of the same element by the chemical bonds. And when we say compounds, these are formed when different elements or compounds chemically react and form bonds with each other. Let us have first a practice on getting to know these chemical compounds. So most elements bond with other elements to form these chemical compounds. So the table now below shows the list of commonly used chemical compounds that we use especially at home or at the kitchen. So let us identify the name of elements included in the given compound and determine whether the elements are metal or non-metal. Answer for the number 1 item is provided as our example. So let's say for example, water. The chemical compound or the chemical formula of the water is H2O. Okay, you can see it here, the H2O. So if we're going to dissect the following name of the elements that are being used here as a compound, so the H here for the hydrogen and the O for the oxygen. So at this moment, by the way, let me just disregard the numbers that you can see here in the lower part. That will be discussed in our next lesson. So right after naming the elements, let's try to identify the following. It's either a metal, a metalloid, or a non-metal. So obviously, as you look into your periodic table, the following classification of the two elements for the water, the hydrogen and the oxygen, are both non-metal. To continue with the next number 2, the sugar. The chemical compound of a sugar is C12, H22, and O11. So these are the following elements that are present in the compound sugar. So we have C for carbon, H for hydrogen, and then O for oxygen. And as you look into your periodic table again, we'll be able to identify also that the classification belong all of them to the non-metal group. In the number 3, we have the potassium chloride, which is the chemical formula is KCl. And if we're going to dissect the following, so the K for potassium and Cl for the chlorine. And as we go on with your periodic table, the classifications for potassium is a metal and chlorine for a non-metal. For number 4, carbon dioxide, C for carbon and O for oxygen. Again, disregard the number that you can see in the lower part. We're going to have that one in our next lesson. So as we go along with the periodic table again, this time, the classification of the two elements belong to the non-metal group. And the last number, we have the sodium chloride, the sodium for the Na, and Cl for the chlorine. As you can see in the periodic table, sodium belongs to the metal group, while chlorine belongs to the non-metal group. So as to summarize this all, how do the compounds form? So these example compounds here, everybody look at our example. We have the water, sugar, potassium chloride, carbon dioxide, and sodium chloride. Most of these compounds are being used every day, most of it, especially in their kitchen, at home. So to answer the question, how do the compounds form? Write your answers there in your notebook. So as a review for our lesson, there are different types of bonds that form depending on the type of atoms it involves. So when we say chemical bond, it is the attractive force that holds together the atom, the ions, molecule, or the chemical compounds itself. So this is subdivided into two. So we have the ionic bond that occurs between metal and non-metal atoms. And we have the covalent bond that occurs between non-metal ions. So I want everybody to please prepare one whole sheet of paper to answer the following exercises. So at the end of this video lesson, you're going to answer all 3 exercises. So we'll have first our exercise number 1. I'll give you a time to prepare a paper for your written activity. So exercise 2.1, on your one whole sheet of paper, can you write first your name, your section, and the day today that you have watched this video or video lesson that we have. So the instruction is to determine if the elements in the following compounds are metals or non-metals, and right after that, describe the type of bonding that occurs in the following compound. So I have already given you a lot of examples from the previous video lesson and from the earlier things that I have just discussed. So we'll have a timer here. In your one whole sheet of paper, I want you to answer now the following. I want you to copy the table that you can see in the exercise 2.1. After 3 minutes, we're going to move on. So I am assuming that you're already done answering. At this time also, you have to make use your periodic table as your guide. So you have an example earlier. This is the compound in here. You write the symbol of the first element, and you write M if it's metal and N if it's non-metal. And element number 2, write the symbol here and write M if it's metal and write N if it's non-metal. And in the last column, identify the type of bond that happened in the following compounds. So the 3 minutes will start. So I hope everybody has my instruction clear already. So we'll start. Please write also in your one whole sheet of paper first, exercise 2.1, bond to bond. Make it sure that you also copy the table properly and you answer it also. Two minutes. Okay, you got 1 minute. Okay. Time's up. Okay, can you please um, keep first the paper you're holding right now, and we'll continue with our discussion. All right, so let us have a review again about what is ionic bond. Ionic bond or ionic bonding. So it is a complete transfer. Can we please highlight this? It's a complete transfer of valence electron between atoms. So since ionic bond is composed of a metal and a non-metal, the metal in here will going to lose the electron. So the metal in here will going to lose the electron and become positively charged, which we called it this time as cation. It's not cation, it's a cation. Whereas the non-metal in here also, we're going to accept those electron that was been given by the metal to become a negatively charged, which we call this one also as an ion. So, in ionic bonding, it requires an electron donor, which is the metal, and an electron acceptor as the non-metal. If you remember, ionic bonding happens only between a metal and a non-metal because they do transferring of valence electrons. So, in our example here, in our illustration, you will see here an atom 1. Let's say this is the metal. Okay, this one. And then the atom 2, which is the non-metal. The atom 1, which is the metal, will going to lose its valence electron and become positively charged cation, while the atom 2, the non-metal, will going to give accept the electron that was been given by atom number 1 to become a negatively charged anion. So the electron here of the metal will be given away to the non-metal. So this makes the atom stable, the atom of metal stable, and the atom of the non-metal stable. So you can see it here that the atom A, which is the non-metal, becomes positive, and the atom B, which is the non-metal, becomes negative. Next, the covalent bond. So in the covalent bond, it's different in the ionic because in the covalent bond, there's only sharing of electron between atoms. So this bonding occurs primarily between non-metals. Therefore, in the covalent bond, there will be no metals in here, but rather non-metals are involved. So both atoms have the same affinity for electrons, and they share these electrons in order to achieve the octet configuration and become more stable. From the word itself, share. So remember, in the ionic bond, electrons are being transferred. May nagbibigay, may nag-receive. Pagdating dito kay covalent bond, the electrons are being shared. So neither of them will going to give or receive, but both of them will share the electrons. So say for example, atom number 1, non-metal, and atom number 2, also a non-metal. Both of them have the same valence electron in here. So none of them will going to share or receive, but rather they are both going to share it. Okay, share. So what will happen to them? Just like this. So the electron of A and the electron of B are being shared by the two of them. So this makes atom A and atom B stable. So this is how the covalent bonding happens. So let's go on now to the different physical properties of ionic and covalent bond. Aside from the transferring and sharing of electrons, the type of bonds within a compound also determines its physical properties by observing these characteristics. So we can deduce whether a compound is ionic or a covalent. To start with, the melting and the boiling point. So mostly of the ionic bonds have this high melting point and high boiling points because it takes a lot of thermal energy for the ions in the crystal to separate them apart from each other. As you can see in our illustration, the positive and the negative charge there are very tight with each other. That's why they have a high melting and boiling, because it's very hard for them to separate. Well, compare it to the covalent bonds. They have low melting and boiling points because of the weak force of attraction between the molecules. As you can see with them, they are not really that tied with each other. So the weak force making it have a low melting and low boiling points. Okay, next, the hardness or the shattering of this ionic and covalent compounds. When we say hardness, it's the property of the solid to resist compression or scratching. Say for example, the crystal lattices of ionic compounds are hard and not easily scratched. However, if it is brittle, which can lead to the changes to its shapes or size. Say for example, in our illustration here, this is an example of an ionic compound. They are hard and not easily scratched. However, if they will be hammered, they will become brittle and they can lead to the changes of its size or shape. Compare it with a covalent compounds. They have a molecules that are weakly attracted to each other and are easily displaced. So, in other words, they are more hard, the shattering and the hardness level of them because of the weakly attracted to each other of the molecules. Okay, next is the polarity. When we say polarity, this is the distribution of electrical charge over the atom. So take a look with this example here. When we have an even distribution this is what we call the polar molecule. If it has an even distribution, this is the non-polar molecule. So example, a polar covalent bond like sugar, as our example, is soluble in water. Obviously, we know that one. But a non-polar covalent bond like a wax, candle, when you put that one into a water, of course, it will be an insoluble material. So we're talking about here the polarity, the distribution of the electrical charge of an atoms. So in connection to that, we're going to talk also about the electronegativity of this ionic and covalent bonds. So what makes them also different? So this is the ability of an atom to attract the electrons towards itself in a chemical bond. So this is the electronegativity differences in the bond type. So the type of bond is a non-polar covalent bond if the electronegativity difference will range from 0.0 to 0.4. It is a polar covalent bond if the electronegativity difference ranges from 0.5 to 2.0. And it will be an ionic bond if the electronegativity difference will have a value greater than 2.0. So to give you an example for this, so the polarity and the electronegativity of our materials can be described through our example. The compound is sodium chloride. This one, sodium chloride, or in other words, this is salt. Very commonly used at home. So the following are the elements. We have the sodium and the chlorine. Now, the electronegativity or the En value will also be given. See, for example, the En value of the sodium is 0.9 and the electronegativity or En value of chlorine is 3.0. So all you have to do is just to deduct or subtract the following two values. You will have first the biggest value before you subtract and then subtract it with the low value. So we'll have first the 3.0 minus 0.9. So always remember you don't have to say, or you don't have the idea that whoever will be the first element, siya yung mauuna. But rather here, kung sino yung mas malaking En value, yun yung iuna nyo sa difference. So the 3.0 minus 0.9, so it's equals to 2.1. So as we go back to our table, for a minute. So if we go back to our table, the polarity level of this compound is ionic. Now in our next example, the water, the H2O, the following elements in this compound are hydrogen and oxygen. So the En value of hydrogen is 2.1 and the En value of the oxygen is 3.5. So obviously you will start again with a bigger value, the 3.5 minus the 2.1, so the result will be 1.4. So as we're going to look again with our table, the 1.4 is a polar covalent bond. Okay, next example is a hydrogen gas which composed of H2. Wherein we understand this one, there are two hydrogen in here. So the En value of an hydrogen is 2.1 and the other En value of the hydrogen is the same, so 2.1. So the electronegativity or the En difference, the 2.1 minus 2.1 is equal to 0. So the polarity level of our compound now is a non-polar covalent. Let us put it this way as our example. So this is what I'm going to, I have already posted earlier, our table, our basis to identify the polarity and the electronegativity of our compound. So let's say, for example, we have the first pair of element, sodium and bromine. The sodium has an En value of 0.9, while the bromine has an En value of 2.8. So again, regardless among them kung sino yung mas nauna, you always have to remember that you subtract first the value which has a greater value before the smallest one. So you have the 2.8 minus 0.9. So the answer there is 1.9. So as you look into our table, 1.9 belongs to the polar covalent bond in these ranges. So it's a polar covalent bond. Next pair of elements, we have sulfur and oxygen. Sulfur again has an EN value of 2.5, and oxygen, by the way, also has an EN value of 3.5. So if you're going to subtract them, 3.5 minus 2.5, the answer is 1.0. And then as you look into our table this time, our 1.0 value belongs also still in the polar covalent bond. Example number 3, or pair of elements 3, we have hydrogen and oxygen. 3.5 is 1 minus 2.1, the answer there is 1.4. And as you look again into our table for the basis of the electronegativity difference or the range, it belongs to the polar covalent bond. Next, one pair of elements of 2 nitrogens. So 3.0, 3.0. So 3.0 minus 3.0, the answer there is 0.0. So as you look into our bases, our 3.0 EN electronegativity difference range, the type of bond will be a non-polar covalent bond. And lastly, potassium and chlorine. 3.0 minus 0.8, the answer is 2.2. That means to say it belongs here to the greater than 2.0. That would mean to say that the type of bond or the polarity of the compound is an ionic bond. So as simple as it is, you're just going to subtract the EN value, find the difference, and then look at our bases to what type of bond or polarity of the compound that they belong. So everybody, I want you again to prepare the one whole sheet of paper that you have earlier. This time, this will be exercise 2.2. The instruction is to determine if the elements in the following compounds are metals or non-metals. Describe the type of bonding that occurs in the compound. So identify first the EN difference. So the EN value is given in the following elements. Identify the difference first, and then identify the polarity of the compound. So I'll give you only 3 minutes to answer this. In your one whole sheet of paper, can we please write also exercise 2.2, electronegativity and polarity. Can we please write also the table? At this time, you may just write only 1 to 5, and you write away the electronegativity difference and the polarity of the compound, so that I can start my timer. So answer directly, just write the EN difference and the polarity of the compound based on our table. Okay? Start now. Okay, 1 minute and 30 seconds on the run. 30 seconds. Alright, time's up. Henley, again, keep your paper this time. We'll continue. Okay, the next property for the ionic and covalent compounds is the electrical and their thermal conductivity. So the ability of some material to conduct electricity and heat. So take note of this, that ionic compounds are the one that are being considered as a good conductor of electricity, especially when they are dissolved or in aqueous solution. So when they are being put in water. So this is because the presence of the mobile ions or the solid electrolytes in the ionic compounds can transfer these electrical charges. So only ionic compounds are the good conductors of electricity. So vice versa on this, covalent compounds on the other hand are good insulators of both electricity and heat because they have molecules that are not as tightly held to each other compared to the ions of the ionic compounds. As to the result of this, the heat does not travel well, making the heat transfer less efficient. So they do not conduct electricity and heat also at the same moment, at this time. The last and not the least property is the solubility in water. So this is the ability to dissolve in water solution. Mostly ionic compounds are, let's say, generally soluble in water with high melting point. So it conducts electricity, as I've mentioned earlier, when they are in a solution because it gives off the positive ion or the cation and the negative ion or the anion. So in the table, we'll have the following example. If the type of compound is ionic, the example is an NaCl or an salt, of course, they are soluble in water. In a polar covalent bond, example are sugar, of course, they are soluble in water. But if it is a non-polar covalent bond, sample an oil, it will become an insoluble in water. Okay, so if you have questions, you can review again our video lessons if you did not understand yet the lessons that we have, if I'm too fast in our pacing. But anyway, the lessons are just very easy to understand. So let's have a very quick quiz about this before we move on to our last exercise. So a quick quiz for a chemical bond, identifying the different properties that I just have mentioned earlier. So the instruction, the quiz has 10 questions, 1 to 10. Select your answer by choosing either its ionic or covalent bond, and we will go on to the following also, from the answers also, rather. Number 1, it's a good conductor of both electricity and heat. The answer there is ionic. Yun, di lang masyadong makita. But the answer there is ionic. Next, number 2. Which type of bonding takes place between non-metal elements only? The answer is very good. It's covalent bond or covalent compounds. Item number 3. Which type of bonding always takes place between metal and non-metal elements? The answer, ionic. Very good for those who got it correct. Item number 4, the heat does not travel well, making the heat transfer less efficient. Whose property would it be? The answer there is covalent. Item number 5, it has a low melting and low boiling point. The answer, covalent. Very good. Item number 6, have molecules that are weakly attracted to each other and are easily displaced. Very weak attraction. The answer there is covalent. Very good. Item number 7, it has an electronegativity value greater than 2.0. The answer is ionic bond or ionic compounds. Next, alright, item number 8, which type of bonding involves the sharing of electrons pairs between atoms? So, is it ionic or covalent that they share these electrons? The answer is covalent. Okay. Next item, item number 9. Which do you think the type of bond that involves the transfer of electrons between the atoms? The answer is ionic bond or ionic compounds. And last item, item number 10, the chemical NaCl or sodium chloride involves which type of bonding? Answer is ionic bonding. Very good. So, very well done, everyone. So, I hope you can answer now our last exercise. Everybody, again, kindly please prepare your one whole sheet of paper and answer our exercise 2.3. Same, I'm going to give you 3 minutes in answering this. In your one whole sheet of paper, the following instruction: identify the following characteristics of compounds as to covalent. Write it CO, If it's ionic, write it IO. So in your paper exercise 2.3, ionic or covalent, write it from numbers from 1 to 10, and do not write anymore here our items, but rather answer directly. Again, the instruction is to write CO. Okay. The instruction is to write CO if it's a covalent compound, and write IO if it's ionic compounds. Okay? 1 to 10. Your timer starts now. Two minutes. One minute. Time's up. Okay, everybody can keep again your paper this time. Wait for my next further announcement or instruction. Okay, now let us have here the common ionic compounds and their uses. So this example in here, we have the sodium bicarbonate, or the NaHCO3. It's a baking soda in common terms. It is used in baking and as an antacid to reduce stomach acid, treats indigestion and upset stomach. So these are the different examples now of ionic compounds or even covalent compounds that are commonly used by us, and also their uses. Next, we have sodium hydroxide, or the NaOH. It is used as a cleaning agent. It is a component of soap and detergents. So, of course, we use this every day at home and even here at school. Example of ionic compounds are the following: the halite, the rock salt crystals, the amethyst crystals. And this one, I cannot read it clearly. Let's check it later. Next example of our covalent compounds, commonly the carbon dioxide, or the CO2, used as a refrigerant in our fire extinguishers, essential gas for the plant and animal processes. Excessive amounts of CO2 are unsafe because it contributes to the global warming. Water, or the H2O, one of the most important substance, very essential to the life processes, essential for daily and domestic uses, plays an important role in the balance of the ecosystem. Again, I have mentioned this one already to you. Ionic compounds, salt, the NaCl, sodium and chlorine, and the water from two elements, hydrogen and oxygen. Other example of ionic compounds in everyday life. So you have it already, this one, the sodium chloride, the sodium bicarbonate, the sodium hydroxide, the magnesium sulfate, or the MgSO4, or the Epsom salt, and the sodium hypochlorite, or the NaOCl, or the bleach. Common covalent compounds, the nitrous oxide, the N2O, is a laughing gas used as an anesthetic and to boost auto engine power. The methane, or the CH4, is a flammable gas used as a fuel and in homes for domestic heating and cooking purposes. Sugars like sucrose, the C12H22O11, and the glucose C6H12O6 that are used in the food and energy production. We have also this one, the hydrogen peroxide, or the H2O2, is used as a bleaching agent, emetic, that induces vomiting, and also as an antiseptic that clean cuts and scrapes. Carbon dioxide, that I have mentioned already so many times. The water makes up about 60% of the human body, known as the universal solvent, and has many unique properties and uses. So thank you for listening for our lesson for today. So I hope you've learned something of your learns. You've learned everything that we could have in our lesson about chemical bonding. So in your paper, in your one sheet of paper, can you please wait for my further announcement on the submission so that I can check your output. God bless and thank you.